Hello, everyone, and happy Saturday. Today is 24th of May. Now it's 12 o'clock, 2 minutes past 12. I'm a bit late today. And I have prepared quite a number of news for this update. And hopefully, you will find it informative and interesting. And dear friends, in case you have not watched my yesterday's live stream, evening news, check that video if you will have time, because I'm not going to repeat many of the news that was reported in that update. And so, what else to say? Let's start live stream straight away. And I will just mention that I didn't receive no questions or the comments to highlight during the streams from any of the support platforms, being I don't know PayPal, Boosty, or any other. So therefore, after new segment, if there will be any donation with a question or the comment during the stream through PayPal or other platforms, I will react on that. And also Rand, by the way, there is a super chat on Rumble, and you can use this Rand feature on Rumble to ask your question or highlight any topic. Also, opportunity to support my work and same time highlight whatever topic you are interested in. And that's being said, let's start this update. First of all, this report from RIA Novosti that air defense systems on duty intercepted 94 Ukrainian drones at night, and early this morning 64 drones were shot down over the territory of Belgorod region, 24 drones were destroyed over the Bryansk region, 2 drones over the Kursk region, and also over the Lipetsk region. One drone was intercepted over the Voronezh, and also one drone over the Tula regions. Relatively large-scale attempt of Kyiv regime, with assistance of NATO member states, of course, to strike deep into Russian territory. But nowadays, we all get used to these relatively high numbers of drone attacks on Russia, and air defense systems are performing quite well. One should notice, and are intercepting vast majority of their drones and whatever projectiles that Kyiv regime is launching to strike Russia. And Russian troops, by the way, retaliating, of course. And overnight, early also this morning, there was quite a large-scale drone and missile strike on military and logistical infrastructure of Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky in a number of directions, including Kyiv itself. And you see on your screen now a picture, which is from Kyiv, by the way. So even though Kyiv regime claimed that they intercepted almost 100% of everything, but if so, then what was happening in Kyiv? Why it was so bright night there? So I guess some important military and logistical targets were destroyed during these strikes by Russian forces. And I saw on some Telegram channels report that one of the targets was Antonov plant. Antonov is, of course, a famous Soviet-era plant where large transport planes were built, biggest ones actually in the world. And according to reports, Kyiv regime is has the drone assembly lines there on that plant, and probably they're going to struggle to assemble any more drones for quite some time. But unfortunately, as we all know, dozens of NATO member states are supplying Kyiv regime with all sorts of weapon systems, including drones. So therefore, we should not really expect. This is the photo, by the way. I forget to turn on screen capture. So we should not really expect a significant decrease in these attempts to strike deep into Russian territory with the drones by Kyiv regime. Also, I think interesting news, and I reported about this progress of the Russian armed forces on the battlefield yesterday in evening update, but I think It's worth notice once again that Russian Defense Ministry reported that Radkovka settlement was liberated in a Kupiansk direction. This is a northern flank of Kupiansk, northern western, and let me show you on the map, dear friends. This is Kupiansk city itself, which is divided by a river. It's Oskol River, isn't it? Yes, it is Oskol River that divides city, and the Russian troops established control over the Radkovka settlement, which is here. Basically, this is outskirts of Kupiansk from northern flank, and reports are that Russian armed forces conducting operations to establish full control over the Kondrashovka settlement also, which is right next to it. And this is not all. Also, Russian armed forces liberated settlement of Atradnae in DPR. So let's move towards DPR. This is a South Donetsk sector of the front line. And that's it, by the way. This is Atradnae settlement, which is also under full Russian control. Progress of the SMO continues, and on daily basis, Russian troops are improving their positions all along the front line, basically. Meanwhile, interesting report on RT that former head of Kiev regime's general staff, Zaluzhny, who is serving as a sort of ambassador into UK now, and I'm saying sort of ambassador because he was sent to UK on the request of London, my belief is, because for UK it is much easier to keep him safe there. We all know that there was a significant, confrontation between Zaluzhny's camp and Zelensky's camp, and if London would not request him as an ambassador to protect him, then probably he would be dead by now. Zelensky and his criminal associates will kill him for sure. And anyways, he's acting now as if he knows anything about diplomacy, plays an ambassador role, and he went to make quite an interesting statement that Kiev can't retake lost regions. Quite an acknowledgement, isn't it? We all know this for since forever, basically. But when a representative of Kiev regime is making such a statement, that probably worth our attention. So Kiev should abandon its ambition to regain control over the territories it has lost to Russia. Valery Zaluzhny, the former commander-in-chief of Ukrainian army, has stated neo-Nazi element, by the way, that has strong affiliations with the Azov neo-Nazi mass murderers formation and war criminal, obviously. And hopefully one day he will pay a heavy price for all the crimes that he committed. But for now, he's, as I said, he's acting as a diplomat in London. And, he went to say this obvious stuff, basically. Only through a miracle could Ukraine achieve such a goal, according to this so-called general mass murderer. We have a quote from him. I hope that there are no people in this hall who are still hoping for some miracle that will bring peace to Ukraine and will bring back their borders of 1991 or 2022. The former commander, now serving as Kiev's ambassador to London, said at the Ukrainian Defense Export Forum on Thursday. So, okay. No, not really surprising news for us, for our community. We know perfectly well that Russia already won, basically, in this proxy war that West is waging against Russia. But it is good that at least some elements in this terrorist regime in Kiev are beginning to realize that they lost and they will not be able ever to regain control over their territories that belongs to Russia. That's it. RT, meanwhile, is reporting that, J.D. Vance went to make also quite a statement that era of uncontested U.S. dominance is over. Also, not really surprise for any of us, I guess. We know that U.S. is on decline as empire, and the only chance for survival for U.S. is to transform into republic, if it's even possible. at this stage. But well, US is definitely no longer sole superpower in this world, and they're actually much weaker than few other countries, namely Russia and China. Much weaker in every possible ways, by the way. Absolutely, there is no questions. Personally, to me, there is no doubts about that. The era of Washington's uncontested global dominance has came to an end, with growing competition from Russia and China and other nations. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance said on Friday, speaking to graduates at the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. Vance said that U.S. Leaders had assumed after the Cold War that American supremacy was assured, uh, nor did we believe any foreign nation could possibly rise to compete with the United States of America, he stated. Vance said that following the end of Cold War, America enjoyed a mostly unchallenged command of the air, sea, space, and cyberspace. The vice president warned that the global landscape has shifted. The era of uncontested US dominance is over. Today, we face serious threats in China, Russia, and other nations determined to beat us in every single domain, from spectrum to lower Earth orbit to our supply chains and even our communications infrastructure, he said. During the post-Cold War period, Washington began focusing on soft power and meddling in foreign country affairs, even when they had very little to do with their core American interests, Vance said, adding that the administration of President Donald Trump would be ending this decades-old approach to foreign policy. Washington now aims to put an end to undefined missions and open-ended conflicts, he said. Okay, interesting statements from Vance, acknowledgement that, well, US is no longer dominant force in this world. And this is good, by the way, for US, first of all, because, I mean, we know here in Russia, and I guess people in China also know that US is on decline, and first of all, due to its own crazy policies, right? It has nothing to do with either Russia or China. I mean, it has everything to do with this extremely uneducated, stupid, and ideologized, in some insanity, political class of US, right? We can call them neocons or whatever, but I mean, Democrats are even worse than neocons. I mean, almost all the wars, by the way, that US was engaged in was started during the Democrat president in office, right? Almost all of them. So there is not really much difference between them. They're all complete morons, right? Vast majority of these so-called political elites in the US, and all they did is destroy future of their own country and their own people. And yet again, theoretically speaking, yes, it is possible that US will manage to survive as a united country. But to achieve this, US has to reform itself, and big time. It has to transform into a true republic from whatever nonsense it is right now. Will this happen? Will America First forces in US manage to transform US into republic? I have some doubts about it, because they are opposed by very powerful forces, right? But at least they can try, and seems like they are on this path, because otherwise, why would Vance make such statements, for example? Let's continue. And well, as I said, by the way, this America First force in US that seems like is in charge of at least White House and number of state institutions in US, not all, but at least number of state institutions. This group is definitely trying to further strengthen their positions. And for example, we have this report that Trump is gutting the deep state inside National Security Council. And deep state, by the way, neocons these are clearly forced not for America, but for multinational corporations, for globalists, I would argue. And same can be said about Democrats, by the way, or neolibs. They might not even realize that they become a tool in hands of globalists, because they are. But anyways, let's go through this news here. The Trump's administration has moved to drastically overhaul their National Security Council, reportedly placing more than 100 officials on administrative leave and slashing their powerful adversary on and the coordination bodies staff as a part of what one White House source described as an effort to gut their deep state. Multiple reports on Friday confirmed that staff across nearly all NSC directorates, including those handling key global hotspots such as Ukraine, Iran, and Indo-Pacific, were dismissed with the little notice. According to CNN and the Reuters, employees received emails late Friday afternoon informing them they had just 30 minutes to clear their desk. Wow, that's quite a move, isn't it? That's quite a bold move on part of Trump and his allies, basically, in administration, because not all of them are allies, by the way, of Trump. Kat Kellogg definitely is a neocon and political enemy of Trump, I will say. Why he even appointed him as a special envoy is, I don't know, mystery to me. Same can be said about Rubio and former National Security Advisor Waltz also was a neocon, isn't it? And many others, by the way. And I guess Trump and his allies are realizing this. They are realizing that it is necessary to clean up the field from these neocons and their assets or the deep state influence, so that they will be more successful in their policies. And well, good luck to them, because I think this is good for US, right? And if US will really, not immediately, obviously, not in a year or 2 years time, but if US eventually in next 10 to 15, 20 years will transform into true republic, then that will benefit not just US itself, US citizens, but also rest of the world, because just US that acting responsibly on the world stage will be helpful, I guess, to maintain peace and stability in this world. So that's why I'm saying, good luck with this endeavor. If they will manage to neutralize globalist assets and neocons and their assets in deep state and elsewhere, that will be good stuff, I think. And also interesting news that Trump threatens EU with the 50% tariffs. I mentioned this news yesterday also because I think this is important. Just a couple of minutes ago, before I start this live stream, on one of the articles, by the way, I read that just Germany, by the way, will lose at least 250 billion euros if Trump will go ahead with this idea. It is idea still for now, but it will may become a final decision until June 1st. So US President Donald Trump said on a True Social network that trade talks with the EU are leading nowhere, so he is proposed to impose some 50% tariffs on European goods. Okay, this is maybe part of negotiating tactics for Trump and his team, and eventually probably they will force Brussels to cave in and accept whatever demands US will have in regards to trade agreement with Brussels. But if not, I mean, US actually can go ahead with this 50% tariffs, and this is going to be big hit, by the way, on globalists and globalist control regimes in Europe. Germany, UK is different. Okay, with UK, Trump already signed trade deal, but UK is no longer part of EU, but it will still be a big hit on UK also, because Europe is one of the major trade partners, European Union, for UK, isn't it? Even if since Brexit, trade with Europe or UK's exports to EU dropped like 20 to 25%, which is huge. But anyway, still Europe is a big partner, trade partner for UK, and any troubles in EU will affect UK also, which is also controlled by globalists. And when it comes to EU itself, of course, these 50% tariffs, if introduced, will strike hard on Germany, France, all the other countries in EU that mainly are controlled by globalists, as I already said, and are ideological enemies of US and America first people in US. So, okay, let's see how will things develop. There are some speculations in Europe, by the way, that by making such a bold statement that he's going to introduce 50% tariffs on EU, Trump is actually trying to influence European elites, so-called elites, in regards to Ukraine also, because US leadership is openly saying now, isn't it, that US is for peace and de-escalation in regards to Ukrainian crisis, and European states are exactly the opposite. They want further prolongation of this war. So maybe this statement of Trump is connected not just with economy and trade, but also with the politics of European elites in regards to Ukraine. Maybe, but I don't know. I mean, it's a pure speculation at this point. All these rumors. RIA Novosti is also reporting that U.S. suspends sanctions against Syria. United States has temporarily suspended sanctions against Syria for 180 days in order to provide Damascus with electricity, water, and humanitarian aid, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said. And well, this is obviously good information for people of Syria, ordinary people. But when it comes to politics and geopolitics, this decision clearly demonstrates what is the true face of the Western politicians in general and Western political class. They are lifting sanctions on a terrorist regime in Syria, and they were adding sanctions, more and more sanctions, while Assad was in charge. And one may criticize Assad for many things, as much as one might want, but after all, at least during the Assad regime, there was no sectarian killings, there was no ethnic cleansing, and that kind of stuff that is happening under their terrorist regime now in Damascus. And that secular government of Assad was sanctioned, tremendously by the West, right? And very same West is now lifting sanctions on terrorist regime. I mean, wow. Should anybody be surprised if I will say, or any other commentator, that US and European states, collective US countries basically, are sponsors of terrorism? Because they are, isn't it? They are. And they are not even hiding this no more. That's what this decision from US means, basically. And I believe yesterday or day before, EU did the same. They also lifted sanctions on Damascus, which is yet again, hopefully this will benefit people, ordinary people, but this will also enhance terrorist regime there that kills these ordinary people, right, and suppress them. In many cases on sectarian and ethnic lines. Let's continue with some more news. And Interfax is reporting that US and Iran agreed to continue discussions after fifth round of talks that happened yesterday, I believe, in Oman. Let's go for some details here. The fifth round of talks between the US and Iran in Rome ended without reaching agreement, but the parties agreed to continue negotiations, the Wall Street Journal reports, citing informed sources. Yes, in Rome, but under Omani mediation. I believe that's how these talks were done. So according to these informed sources of Wall Street Journal, Iran and United States intend to establish the parameters of a new agreement on Tehran's nuclear program, leaving important details for discussion later. Following the fifth round of talks, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said that Iranian side expects to resolve the issue, causing disagreements during one or two meetings with American representatives. We have quote here. I hope that in one or two meetings, given a better understanding of the Iranian position, we will be able to reach agreement that can allow the negotiations to move forward. The Mehr news agency quotes the minister as saying, uh, Foreign Minister of Iran, Abbas Araghchi, and well, it is good. It is good if something positive will come out of these talks between delegations of US and Iran, but I am unfortunately skeptical about these talks. I think US is just buying time while preparing attack on Iran with coordination with Israel and few other countries. And this is unfortunate. This is unfortunate, but I think that's exactly what is going to happen. I don't believe that U.S. administration is really seeking de-escalation with Iran. I'm not buying that. Time will tell. Time will tell if my understanding of the situation is correct or not. RIA Novosti, meanwhile, is reporting that artificial intelligence has been introduced to Russian fifth-gen fighter jet Su-57, which is quite interesting stuff. An artificial intelligence system has been implemented in this Su-57 multi-role single-seater fifth-gen fighter. It is essentially electronic second pilot for the aircraft. Rosoboron export representative told the RIA Novosti, and well, good information, I will say. Of course, these fifth-gen planes are extremely complex, and their AI, I guess, is just absolutely necessary to make sure that pilots are not overwhelmed with all sorts of data that they have to deal during their mission. So therefore, I think if Su-57 was one of the most advanced and deadliest fighter jets ever produced in a world, then with artificial intelligence, this plane is going to become unchallenged whatsoever. Best, right? And if you ask me, it is the best plane, by the way. It is the most beautiful plane that ever built, if you ask me, among jet planes, by the way, among the planes that have a jet engine. If it comes to World War II era, of course, I will acknowledge Spitfire, beautiful plane, by the way, a legendary plane that helped UK to defend itself from Germany. But Germany's also had BF 109, also a legendary plane. And on initial stages of war was basically unchallenged. I mean, also legendary plane. And when it comes to Soviet Union, by the way, Soviet Union had series of Yak planes that were participating in the war. Also beautiful planes, by the way. Also MiG planes. It took part in the battlefields. And LAG, by the way, there was another company that was producing construction bureau, Lavochkin Gurevich, that was, if I remember correctly, LAG-G planes, and they had quite good results in a fight with enemy aircraft. But if it comes to modern era and jet fighters, then I think Su-57 is definitely most deadliest, I will say, and most beautiful plane, for sure. And probably all of you will agree. I mean, Su-57 is much more nice looking than US F-22. I don't like US F-22, by the way. It does not look aerodynamic enough to me personally, while Su-57 is like a think paper, by the way. It's just a great looking plane. and with artificial intelligence gonna become ever more deadlier than before. And dear friends, let me give you also this news before I end this news segment of live stream. University is reporting based on information of Bloomberg that European Union is studying the possibility of disconnecting more than 20 banks from the SWIFT system as a part of new sanctions against Russia. Let's go for little details. The European Union is studying the possibility of disconnecting more than 20 banks from the international payment system SWIFT, as well as lowering the price ceiling for Russian oil and banning the Nord Stream gas pipelines as a part of a new sanctions package, according to their agency sources. As a part of a new package, EU is also exploring the possibility of introducing additional transaction bans for about 24 banks and new trade restrictions for about 2.5 billion euros. Okay, these guys, by the way, in Brussels are going crazy for sure. I mean, they are sick with Russophobia, xenophobia, and they cannot help themselves, right? They just introduced a 17th package of sanctions a couple of days ago, and they are already working on 18th one. Okay, I mean, let them go ahead with this nonsense, by the way. And only question I have right here in this news is that which banks, by the way? I don't think there is any 20 banks left here in Russia that are still connected with the SWIFT. So maybe Brussels is not gonna go now ahead with their sanctioning banks from other countries that are cooperating with Russia. I mean, that's gonna be quite something, isn't it? I mean, I don't think a reputation of European financial and banking system can be destroyed anymore. I mean, it's already on lowest level ever, right? But I guess European bureaucrats, these corrupt elements, want to further damage Europe and Europe's reputation, and they are coming up with this nonsensical stuff, by the way. They might also introduce secondary sanctions, or like US neocons plan on the countries that are cooperating with Russia. But yet again, these kind of moves will just further isolate collective West from rest of the world. That's going to be only long-lasting result of this type of crazy behavior on part of collective West, really. And that's about it, dear friends. That's about it. Hopefully, you did find this relatively short news segment informative and useful. And as I said, there was no questions or the comments with donation through any of the support platforms. So therefore, I have nothing to comment on in this regards. And before I end this live stream, dear friends, let me just remind you that this project, as many of you know, is completely subscriber funded, and the only way I can maintain this project, these channels, and the only way I can continue to work full time here is if community will support. And there is a few ways for support. Best, if you ask me, is to subscribe to my Patreon page, because that gives me better understanding of funds that I have for the next months, or subscription on Boosty, by the way. On both channels, I have extra content on regular basis. And also, of course, PayPal can be used for donation, for example, or crypto. And there are some other ways also, by the way. Everything is under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. All the links and addresses and so on. Hopefully, with help of our community, I'll be able to continue full-time work on this project. I hope so. This is it for now. Have a wonderful day, dear friends, and take care. Bye for now.